Come in wherever you are. Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert. I'm Ginger, your worship associate for today. Is this working? Okay. As we begin, we acknowledge that we are on the historic homelands of the various bands of the Kawiya people. We honor the unique relationship we hope emerges between our community and the indigenous people and their traditional territories. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder to recognize, honor, and partner with the Kawiya people whose lands and water we benefit from today. Your body is welcome here, all of it. Yes, even that part. And that part. And yes, even that part. The parts you love, the parts you don't. For in this place we come with all that we are, all that we have been, all that we are going to be. Our bodies are constantly changing. Cells die and cells are reborn. We respond to infections and disease. Sometimes we can divorce them from our bodies, and other times they become a permanent part of us. Your body and all that is within it, both wanted and not wanted, has a place here. Our bodies join in a web of co-creation, created and creating, constantly changing us, scarred and tattooed, tense and relaxed, diseased and cured, unfamiliar and intimate, formed in intimate diversity of creation. Your body is welcome here, all of it. So take a moment and welcome it. Take a moment to feel it in. Take a moment to be in it. Okay, welcome. We're glad you're here with us today. If you'd like to be on our email list to learn more about us and our programming, please contact us at admin, it's ADMIN, at uucod.org. And now let us ring our Tibetan bowl.
Good morning again, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert. I am the Reverend Ian Riddell. It is my joy to serve this congregation as its minister. We welcome you here on this beautiful, beautiful day. I'm going to start us off today with some words adapted from those of my friend and colleague, the Reverend Sharon Wiley, who is the minister of the Chalice UU congregation in Escondido, California. For millennia, people have gathered together to tell and hear stories, to root for the underdog, to witness the evil and the unkind meet sticky ends. We see in our stories mirrors to our own lives where we hope good things will happen to good people and that evil will be vanquished. This morning we gather for story, for wonder and solace, for hope and for justice. May the stories we tell and remember shed new light on our own lives. And may we know ourselves connected to millions of readers and listeners and storytellers, the world around who have come before us, and millions who will come after. With these stories bubbling in our hearts, let us worship together today. Friends, will you join us in singing our opening hymn, please? May Nothing Evil Cross the Door. It is number 1 in our hardcover hymnal, but we're going to have the words on our screen. Please rise in body or in spirit. May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go. made straw, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This hearth, though the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in.
Now we have the chalice lighting. May love be the spirit of this church. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And I've asked Linda Savard to light the Biopoc candle for us. We light these candles in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as we journey together towards spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our values so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail.
Costume change. So Ginger and I are going to present to you a dialogue from a really wonderful novel. It is between a character known as Granny Weatherwax, that will be me, a witch, and one of Terry Pratchett's most beloved characters. An Omnian priest, you ready for this? The quite reverend, mightily praiseworthy are you who exalteth, O mightily oats. That will be Ginger. And they start by talking about Oates' grandmother. So she was keen on crushing infidels?
Well, mainly I think she was in favor of crushing Mrs. Arm next door. But you've got the right idea. Yes, she thought the world would be a better place with a bit more crushing and smiting, a bit judgmental, my grandmother.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Judging is human.
We prefer to leave it ultimately to Om.
Being human means judging all the time, this and that, good and bad, making choices every day. That's human.
And are you so sure that you make the right decisions?
No, but I do the best that I can do.
And hope for mercy, eh?
Well, mercy is a fine thing, but judging comes first. Otherwise, you don't know what you're being merciful about. Anyway, I always heard you Omnians were keen on smiting and crushing.
Those were different days. We use crushing arguments now.
And long pointed debates, I suppose.
Well, there are two sides to every question.
Well, what do you do if one of them's wrong?
I meant that we were enjoying to see things from the other person's point of view.
You mean that from the point of view of a torturer, torture is all right?
Mistress Weatherwax, you are a natural disputant.
No, I ain't.
You'd certainly enjoy yourself at the synod anyway. They've been known to argue for days about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin.
What size pin?
I don't know, I'm afraid.
Well, if it's an ordinary household pin, then there'll be 16.
16 angels?
That's right.
Why?
I don't know. Perhaps they like dancing.
You've counted 16?
No, but it's as good an answer as you'll get. And that's what your holy men discuss, isn't it?
Not usually. There is a very interesting debate raging at the moment about the nature of sin, for example.
And what do they think? Against it, are they?
It's not as simple as that. It's not a black and white issue. There are so many shades of gray.
Nope.
Pardon?
There are no grays, only white that's got grubby. I'm surprised you don't know that. And sin, young man, sin is when you treat people as things, including yourself. That's what sin is.
It's more complicated than that.
No, it isn't. When people say things are a lot more complicated than that, they mean they're getting worried that they won't like the truth. People as things. That's where it starts.
Oh, I'm sure there are worse crimes.
But they all start with thinking about people as things. We are going to take an offering now for the support of this congregation, where we like debates and conversations and thinking about things. So please give as generously as you can for the support of this beloved community as Joel plays us some more beautiful music. Will you join me, friends, in a time of prayer? Contemplation, meditation. Spirit of life, fire of love, God of our broken and still shining hearts, be with us as we pause today in grief and gratitude, in certainty and confusion, in despair and hope. We pause especially in our time together today to honor those who have given their lives in the service of our nation, whose lives were cut short by the violence of war, who sacrificed their futures in the name of our collective. We offer love and compassion to their families and communities, parents and children, siblings and cousins, neighbors and colleagues and compatriots, those who have lost the sound of their voices, the touch of their hands, and the comfort of their presence in their lives. May we strive to be the arms of love that enfold them in their anguish and lift them up in their struggle. We share gratitude for those who continue to serve in our armed forces, who continue to fight wars and conflicts that they did not start or choose. May you empower us to care for them while they are away and when they return to us. Spirit of life, as we commit our hearts to care and love, strengthen our resolve and the work of our hands to weave a world of peace and love in the place of war and hatred. As we honor our kinfolk who served and died to protect our freedoms, as we honor those whose lives were taken from us by violence or illness, as we remember those family members of ours who struggle with health and hope, remind us daily that we too are called to protect the freedoms that we so freely speak of, that we are called to strive for a just and free and loving society. Give us the courage to demand that our leaders work for peace and justice, and that we all, in union with people of goodwill in every nation, work toward a world where we will lay down the arms of war and relate to each other as kin and neighbor, solving our difficulties and disputes with intention and persistence and faith in each other. Spirit of life, known by many names, experienced in many ways, but always with us, with love in our hearts. This is our prayer today. We pause together in silence, and then in singing, and then in silence again. All this joy, all this sorrow, all this promise, all this pain, such is life, Such is being, such is spirit, such is love. All this joy, all this sorrow, all this promise, all this pain, such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. May all beings know peace. May all beings know an end to suffering. May all beings know life. Friends, will you join your voices together as we sing Spirit of Life, Fuente de Amor? Spirit of life, come to me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón, cántale tu compasión. Sopla al volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arráyame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. I share with you often, probably too much, I think, the writings of Ursula Le Guin and her impact on my thinking and my theology. It's been that way most of my life. I remember holding a copy of A Wizard of Earthsea in my hand, standing in the library at my elementary school, and borrowing it over and over and over again, and then discovering the rest of her writing and falling entirely under her spell. But there were other works of fantastic literature that grabbed my attention as well, even that far back. Standing here right now, I can remember the cover of my first copy of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. It was a gift from my aunt and uncle, and it had a picture of the Black Riders on the cover from the animated version that happened in the 80s. And we forget that very quickly. I can see the cover, I can see the font, I can smell the pages, I can feel the weight of it in my hands, and it was the first of at least 4 copies that I have owned over the years, all of them read till they fell apart. And along with Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and Le Guin's Earthsea books and C.S. Lewis's Narnia books, these books shaped my heart and my understanding of the world. And I've shared with you before why I think that science fiction, for example, is a good source of imagining and reflecting on our lives and societies and how to better our world. But those are, I imagine some people saying, at least grounded in science and reality, even if extrapolated in wild ways, but fantasy books, wizards and magic and dragons, that might seem trivial. But to me, all of literature is at heart human beings working out in story how we have to live as humans in this world. Fantastic literature even more so. Things don't need to be factual to hold truth. Terry Pratchett, the author of the dialogue that Ginger and I shared earlier, wrote this. He was speaking of another author. One of the great popular novelists of the early part of the 20th century was G.K. Chesterton. Writing at a time when fairy tales were under attack for pretty much the same reason as books can now be covertly banned in some schools because they have the word witch in the title, Chesterton said, the objection to fairy stories is they tell children that there are dragons. But children have always known there are dragons. Fairy stories tell children that dragons can be defeated. And especially when we are thinking about archetypal concepts like good and evil, fantasy literature can be a powerful lab for experimenting with our ideas. Le Guin writes, in an America where our reality may seem degraded to posturing patriotism and self-righteous brutality, she wrote those words 40 years ago. But posturing patriotism and self-righteous brutality seem apt for today. Imaginative literature continues to question what heroism is, to examine the roots of power, and to offer moral alternatives. Imagination is the instrument of ethics. So today I want to delve a little more into good and evil and how some of the most popular literature in history, Lord of the Rings being one of the best-selling books of all time, might guide our exploration. And now a little invitation. If you find yourself baffled by some of the odd names or perplexed by the way things work in fantastic literature, if you really feel like the stuff isn't for you and you are listening with maybe a little disdain in your heart, I will invite you to know that for some of the people in this room, this is the second language they learn to speak and a lens of the world they have lived in since their youth. Just as we listen to stories and ideas from religions not our own or cultures not our own, so too we are invited, and I invite you today, to listen and appreciate and respect literature that might be strange to you. Now, fantasy literature most often happens on strange worlds that have their own histories and cosmology, how things are and where the world came from. One story of the beginning of all things in a piece of fantasy literature starts like this. There was Eru the One, who in Arda is called Ilúvatar, and he made first the Ainur, the holy ones, that were the offspring of his thought, and they were with him before aught else was made. And he spoke to them, propounding to them themes of music. And they sang before him, and he was glad. The story continues with Ilúvatar inviting the Ainur to sing and make more harmony based on the musical theme that he shared with them. And then the voices of the Ainur, it continues, like unto harps and lutes and pipes and trumpets and viols and organs, and like unto countless choirs singing with words, began to fashion the theme of Ilúvatar to a great music. And a sound arose of endless interchanging melodies woven in harmony that passed through hearing into the depths and into the heights, and the places of the dwelling of Ilúvatar were filled to overflowing. and the music and the echo of the music went out into the void, and it was not void. Chronicled in what became the collection of legend and history called the Silmarillion, this is the beginning of the creation of the world crafted by J.R.R. Tolkien early in the 20th century, the beginning of what he called his sub-creation, Middle-earth. Sound and music and harmony. The universe was sung into existence. But the vast music of the cosmos soon changed for the remainder of eternity by the choice of one of the Ainur, one of the holy ones, Melkor, and his choice to introduce his own song into the cosmic reality, discordant, separate, painful. Back and forth, Ilúvatar and the Ainur and Melkor go, new themes and harmonies challenged by Melkor's discord. Until finally, Ilúvatar chooses, as it seems he always intended to do, chooses to incorporate both the harmony and the discord, the potential for good and the potential for evil, incorporate the possibility of both into the fabric of the created world, both always there for immortal and immortal alike to access and be swayed. Now, Tolkien was a devout Catholic and a veteran of the bloody conflict of the First World War. And you can see the influence of his faith and his experience in his crafting of this sub-creation, the creation of evil in the Silmarillion. Melkor's pride and rebellion and fall is a clear parallel with Christian mythology about the pride and rebellion and the fall of the angel Lucifer. Melkor, in many incarnations, and his followers, most notably Sauron, who we'll come to in a little bit, become the embodiment of evil in Tolkien's worlds and the enemies of the several races of Middle-earth. Now, despite this clear parallel, Tolkien's works are not Christian propaganda or allegory, as some people feel like Tolkien's dear friend C.S. Lewis's Narnia books are. Not propaganda from Tolkien, but shot through with a tragic but ultimately hopeful cosmology and world view. Good will win in the end, but it's going to take a long time. There are scores, and I mean scores, of articles and posts and essays and doctoral theses focused on how Tolkien imagined and wrote about good and evil in his most read work, Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, and the Hobbit, and scores of examples in his own letters of him thinking these things through with people around him. For Tolkien, our knowledge of the world around us and our part in it is always murky and uncertain. But he said, what we do know, and that to a large extent by direct experience, is that evil labors with vast power and perpetual success in vain, preparing always only the soil for unexpected good to sprout in. But good is woven there too, woven into the cosmos, ours and his created universe. He says, at the same time, one knows that there is always good, much more hidden, much less clearly discerned, seldom breaking out into recognizable, visible beauties of word or deed or face, not even when in fact sanctity, far greater than the visible advertised wickedness, is actually there. Now, the story of the Lord of the Rings, at first glance, looks like a cliche battle between absolute good and absolute evil, coming together of humans and elves and dwarves and hobbits and wizards, fighting the orc hordes of Sauron, once the lieutenant of Melkor, now the evil lord himself. At the core of the tale is a physical manifestation of Sauron's schemes and evil, the One Ring, created with evil craft and imbued with the spirit of Sauron himself. Over its long existence, the ring has seduced many, corrupting them with desire for power and immortality. The ring exerts strong influence even on the most steadfastly honorable characters. In her Broken Earth trilogy, a 21st century work, N.K. Jemisin reflected on a similar conflict of evil's influence. She wrote, evil was the most contagious of diseases, so virulent that no herb, surgery, or dream humor could cure it. One's sense of what was normal, acceptable, became distorted by proximity to wrongness. Entire nations had succumbed this way, first to decadence and then collapse. And straightforwardly, the quest at the heart of Tolkien's novel is a journey undertaken by a diverse band of heroes to take this ring back to where it was forged, the fires of the volcano called in our tongue Mount Doom, and throw it back into the fire to be destroyed, thereby destroying Sauron's power and earthly existence and ridding the world of that evil. That journey and its consequences are the story. Now, what I'm about to continue, what I'm telling you is a massive simplification of the story. But what ends up happening, spoiler alert, by the way, what ends up happening is that the least powerful, the least strong, the least world-wise of the Fellowship is the one who ends up being able to get the ring to its destruction. Frodo Baggins, a hobbit, Tolkien's diminutive, non-heroic pastoral representatives of normal people. Frodo with his companion Samwise Gamgee, and the wretched creature Gollum, once a hobbit-like being but corrupted and ravaged in the ways that N.K. Jemisin talked about by decades of living with the ring. These three small creatures managed to do what none of the wizards and high elves and noble kings have ever been able to do. They get the ring to Mount Doom and destroy it. And Sauron misses it. He doesn't see it coming. He doesn't throw everything he has to stop them because he is focused elsewhere on the armies led by Aragorn, the future king of Gondor, and Gandalf, the powerful wizard. And so why does evil, woven into the world as it is, lose this battle? Well, it's best described, I think, by poet W.H. Auden in his New York Times review of the third volume in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That'll tell you something about how these books might have been seen. Sometimes Auden, not an unimportant person in the New York Times, Auden's favorable review of this book. Auden writes, evil has every advantage but one. It is inferior in imagination. Good can imagine the possibility of becoming evil, hence the refusal of Gandalf and Aragorn to use the ring. But evil, defiantly chosen, can no longer imagine anything but itself. Sauron cannot imagine any motive except lust for domination and fear, so that when he has learned that his enemies have the ring, the thought that they might try to destroy it never enters his head, and his eye is kept toward Gondor and away from Mordor and Mount Doom and the Hobbit. The idea that someone would reject the possibility of power and domination never crosses Sauron's mind. And so the smallest of them all, Frodo and Sam and Gollum, are able to destroy the ring and destroy the Dark Lord at the same time. When I think about this, I am reminded of something I shared with you a few months ago that Rebecca Solnit has shared in an essay reflecting on the situation in Minneapolis earlier this year. She highlighted social media attention to the fact that right-wing bloggers and posters were taken aback by the level of organization of the people of Minneapolis and beyond, that they couldn't comprehend how and why a group of people would be able to come together in such an organized and supportive way unless it was funded by outside agitators. Some people do not understand motives that are not greed and self-service. Solnit writes, they believe devoutly in the power of violence and do not comprehend the power of nonviolence. They understand the power that the state has, but do not understand the power that civil society has. They understand their own motives, greed, a lust for power, an intolerance of difference, and are baffled or uncomprehending about generosity, the desires for democracy and equality that are about wanting to share rather than hoard power, the tolerance and more than tolerance of difference. Evil, though it is woven into the fabric of the world, according to Tolkien, is ultimately thwarted. Because once chosen, it can no longer imagine anything but itself. Now, despite her deep and complex love of Tolkien's writing and thinking, Ursula Le Guin's work don't deal at all really with evil and good as cosmic forces battling it out for dominion. Her works, deeply influenced by Jungian and Taoist understandings of the way of things grapple more closely with ideas of balance and choice and relationship. There is no Sauron or Satan in her works. There is magic often and power, and the choices of individuals and groups toward good or ill. The main character in her novel, Always Coming Home, is a woman named Stone Telling. Part of Stone Telling's story is a journey to the land and people of her father, who left the agrarian collective culture he was born in to be part of a more warlike, more technologically focused society. And after she has been with her father's people for a while, Stone Telling reflects on the choices made by members of her hosts that seem antithetical to the choices her own society made. Members of this other group, she said, changed their soul for power. She says all of them came to think that to be a person at all is to be separate and apart from everyone and everything. Connection and balance and just relationships are the good to be supported. Separation is the evil to be avoided. Separation and understanding ourselves apart are the cause of what we might call evil. And so is a focus on purity and uprightness separate from relationship and the lived work of hand and mind. N.K. Jemisin again shares this understanding of the centrality of connection and relationship. Of course, even when evil is a possibility of choice, she writes, of will, we are not ever making those decisions in isolation from each other, from the families we grew up in, from the communities which raise us, from the society whose air we breathe. Both Jemisin and Le Guin focus on how it is our choices in relationship that guide us toward good or evil acts, that we choose in each and every moment to honor dignity and kindness, or we choose to deny connection and worthiness. Terry Pratchett, who Ginger and I quoted earlier, was an English author who became most famous and beloved for his 41 novel series. Get that, 41 novel series, set on a place called Discworld. Discworld is, as its name suggested, a disc, a world with continents and oceans and cities that lie on a flat disc, which moves through the universe, followed by its own circling sun and moon on the back of 4 elephants. The elephants, in turn, ride on the back of a vast star turtle, Great Atuin. That word. On this world are cities and cultures, people and races that you might recognize from throughout fantasy literature. Witches and wizards, assassins and explorers, barbarians and dwarves, and fairies and townfolk and city people, rich and poor. There is even a much beloved portrayal of death itself as a caring, curious force in the lives of the characters. Pratchett's stories are funny, bitingly funny at times. He takes aim at hierarchy and fascism. He explores police violence and the systemic causes and impacts of hatred and poverty. It's clear that his humor grows both out of Pratchett's love of people and his deep anger at societies and individuals that are greedy for power and control, and his anger at the small pettinesses that run through our lives and are, for him, the fertile ground for violence, sin, and evil. Remember back, Granny Weatherwax says, there's no grays, only white that's got grubby. I'm surprised you don't know that. And sin, young man, she says, is when you treat people as things, including yourself. That's what sin is. So I think you could probably think of many examples in today's age, where there are people who think of other people as things. So what are we to make of all of this? And weren't there going to be more dragons? Well, the dragons decided, thank you, Jack, for your imagery, and especially for the dragons. The dragons decided that just being part of this sermon wasn't enough for them. They are proud creatures and often easy to find defense, so there will be more dragons later in the year, I promise. But for me, as I look around at the world around us and what we face and the way that we so often treat each other in the world, this literature brings me some perspective. We Unitarian Universalists don't usually talk about evil as a vast entity outside of the universe and tempting and attacking us. We see it more often in the day-to-day actions of people and in the systems that we build that discriminate and attack and seduce us into greed and power seeking. And even Tolkien, though his world is full, his work is full of dark lords and evil angels, he understands the possibility of evil, of violence, of hatred is woven into our lives, and that it is our choices, large and small, that allow us to fight against its proclivity. When we see only our own perspective, when we are willfully unaware that others may have needs and motives different than ours, like Sauron ignoring the little people of his despair, then we open ourselves to turning our back on the good and on the possibilities for change. When we understand, like Le Guin, that choosing lives of hyper-independence and giving our hearts and souls to power and greed, then we can see how to resist the seduction of that power, building community, living in harmony with each other and with nature. And when we know, like Terry Pratchett, that ignoring the worthiness and holiness of each person in front of us is a shortcut to sin and evil, then we can teach ourselves the habits of kindness and care and steadfast faithfulness that will help us and our communities survive and thrive together, as we know we were meant to do. May it be so. Friends, will you take a deep breath with me? The lecture is over. I'll send a reading list out later. Would you rise, please, in body or spirit as we sing together Rising Green, number 1068, by Carolyn McDade. My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak. Her sap doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul, like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my soul is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our fate settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
Wow. Thank you, Reverend Ian, for offering us all a new perspective, a new way to look at things. Always exciting to learn a new way to look at things. things. I'd like to say thank you right now before we go into I want to say thank you before I do the announcements because the thank yous are so important. So many people come together to make this service happen. I want to thank the AV team and all the work they do both before and during service. Make this available for the people in the field, people that are not here, people who cannot find their way here, and for us to look at later on if we need a new reminder during the week. For the hospitality team, who brings the fresh coffee and desserts and cookies and whatever they can think of to bring and provide for us all, to make our time together in a community even better. I want to thank the greeters, the people that work the hospitality, the greeters, the Tracy and her team. Thank you all for all that you're doing. The people that collect the offering. I want to thank each of you for showing up, each of you for allowing us to be a part of your morning, a part of your day, a part of your continuing faith experience, whatever that turns out to be. Because without you, I am not as strong as I could be. Thank you for that. And if I've missed anybody, please forgive me. I make mistakes too. We've got a couple of announcements today, only two announcements today. One of them comes from Joni. Joni says, calling all artists of all mediums, oil, watercolors, fabric art, photography, or family members' artwork of any medium. Would you like to showcase and share your or your family members' talents for a couple of months on the walls of our community room? Anything we can hang on the wall hanging system on the wall hanging system we have there. It will be enjoyed by visitors, meeting attendees, crafting sessions attendees, Scrabble players, mahjong players, building renters, and more. If you'd like to know more about this, please contact Joni Paddock. Also, a quick reminder, because there's been a little bit of a shift in Dining Divas. Dining Divas is meeting on June 8th, which is the second Monday of the month, at 6 p.m. And we're meeting at the Desert Thai in Cathedral City. So if you're interested, please sign up on the sign-up sheet outside, or let Julia Bell know, so we can get all this, all go out and have a grand time. Okay. Now it is time for us to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. We carry these hearts until we are together.
I want to close today with words from the middle of The Lord of the Rings, when things look to be their darkest, and Frodo and his companion Sam feel lost and despairing, and that the task ahead of them seems hopeless. Sam, as is his role throughout the book, encourages Frodo to hold on a little longer. And Frodo asks him, what are we holding on to, Sam? And Sam replies that there is some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. With that fight in our heart, with a vision of the good, an understanding of our own natures, and our connection to each other, go in peace, my friends, to love and serve the world.